Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Thursday, February 6th, and I mean, Corey, Adam, Brody, are coming live from Spec, right? And we're covering today, what is a spec, right? When you're talking about specifications, like what is it? What do we really mean? And we'll get some info from these guys. Give us a second. All right. So how's it going? Corey, Adam, Brody? Brody, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here. This is my first Specsummit. So I am blown away by like all the possibilities. I think I'm really excited about today's topic because I think prior to working with spec, right, I honestly didn't really know what a spec was.
Right.
I just figured, length times width times height.
Yeah.
And it's so much more than that. And the more I'm here, the longer I'm like
times pi. Actually, you forgot pi.
Oh,
pi r squared.
I'm so glad I'm here.
Only on cylinders. Only on cylinders.
I did love your story before we went on about like how the level of packaging nerdery.
It's amazing. I found my people here.
I know.
Super Bowl of packaging nerds.
So you get on the elevator. Tell us, because the elevators, the hotel's like full of packaging nerds. So
yes. So we're on the elevator, and there's like 30 floors in this hotel, and so it's a long ride, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're on it. Everyone's sitting, and we're kind of like awkwardly just like, we're all here for the same thing, but we don't really know each other, so we're just gonna be quiet. And these people get on, and it's kind of quiet for a second, and then they look to each other and say, so is that recyclable or compostable? Like, what are we talking here? And the whole elevator was like, yeah.
We have a topic we can talk about.
I know what they're talking
people.
about. Yeah, these are my people. So it's community here of packaging nerds, and I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how are you guys doing, Adam, Corey?
Great. I think this is I was trying to remember if this is my fourth. I think this is my fourth Spec Summit.
Yeah. Third or fourth.
Third or fourth. I don't remember, but it'll be in Austin next year. So if you're having some FOMO,
Canada.
It's not in Canada.
Oh,
that's
Southern Canada.
Yeah, that's
Texas.
Texas is Southern Canada. The Texans will love to say that.
We're gonna be canceled in Texas.
I love Texas.
But hey, it'll be in Austin next year. It bounces back and forth between Nashville and Austin, and so great food, great entertainment, great music, great people. So we're
going to do a honky tonk tonight.
Are we going to honky tonk?
Yeah.
Just Corey.
Nice.
I'll be on stage.
Oh, he brought his banjo. He's going to go
Honky
full
tonky.
Steve Martin.
Yeah.
Did you know that Steve Martin is an incredible banjo player?
I did. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So many talents.
All right. So what the hell is a spec?
It's a lot of things. It's a complicated answer to a simple question, right?
Yes. And for packaging, it's diverse. It's so many things for so many different kinds of packaging materials. As you know, I'm focused on corrugated.
Really?
Yeah, I like boxes.
Oh,
But
that's cardboard, right?
yeah, it's cardboard. If you don't know what you're talking about, that's what you call it.
They don't.
We know you're in the club.
If you're on the elevator coming down and you're just like, "Hey, check out this cardboard box," it's like record scratch, and everyone's like, "I don't
Push
think."
them out of the elevator.
I think you need to leave. You can take the stairs.
That's how you get ejected from this.
You get beat up.
Yeah.
But like Brody was saying, it's more than length, width, and depth. There's so many variables. There's so many differentiators in packaging that's what this conference is all about. How do we record all that data? How do we keep track of it? And it's an incredible undertaking.
Do you? So I think one thing, Avelio, that because you've got a box, and I can't tell because the screen's kind of far away, but like even something as simple as a corrugated box, maybe it's a corrugated e-commerce shipper. Avelio, you do a bunch of work with this. Obviously, you guys do as well. But like even that simple box has the length and the width and the dimensions, but it's going to have a die line. It's going to have inks, but even getting down to the material, right? You've got, is it fluting and medium? And, I know at, what's your company? IDP Direct Value. Like at IDP, like you guys will do things like get different like specialty papers and combine them all to make a very unique box. And all of that is part of the spec. Like, where does all of that paper come from? And And all that data had just sort of lived in its own special universe.
Oftentimes with the supplier,
Right.
Mhm.
on or a designer's laptop or an engineer's database, and
Mhm.
those specs would oftentimes go away when that person would leave the company. And
Yeah.
this is an opportunity to consolidate that into a, as they call it, one source of truth.
Yeah. I was talking to a packaging engineer last night here at Specsummit, and she was saying that she feels like she spends most of her time investigating rather than innovating. Because as she's, their customers are
Well
asking
said.
for data for regulations and things coming up that are, that data is critical. She doesn't have it. And so she goes to ask a supplier. Sometimes they have a PDF and she's got to do all this investigation work, or, their data right now is in an Excel sheet. And so tell somebody's changed something, but she doesn't know what has changed. And so then she has to go talk to that person. She's like, I spend a week figuring out what is the spec for this, and to answer a very simple question. And because it's so integrated, disconnected. Yeah.
Disconnected. That's the
It's
word.
all the information is siloed because people are
Yeah.
trying to, in some cases, just protect their jobs. And I really appreciated, honestly, the first keynote, and I just posted about it, was about like change. Like, why are people resistant to change? What is the friction to change? And a lot of it is exactly what you're talking about, is like a simple question of like, hey, what is the, Avelio, what is that box? What is it? It's like, and it's usually like, give it to the salesperson, and it's like, hey, tell me what the box is. And you're like, that could take a long time.
Right.
No, well, that's just it. People don't even know what questions to ask. But hey, Anthony, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. But yeah, like example, like you've got a rigid box here, right? Like there's paper on here. Where's the paper from? What's the content? What's the fiber content on that paper? There's foil. Okay, what brand of foil is that? Where is that foil coming from? There's like a gloss UV happening here. All right, well, what's contained in that ink? Where's that ink coming from? And a lot of times, if it's like a paper, if you're a manufacturer and you're buying a paper from a supplier, it's kind of the same thing. That supplier might not give you the information as to where that paper is coming from. It's just coming from the supplier. But really, there's a chain of custody that happens way before that. If you're doing packaging in Europe, you've got like EUDR, which you have to be able to geolocate the batch of trees where that fiber comes from, and be able to provide that information. So like specifications aren't just like, oh, it's white and gold and it's these dimensions. It is like down to the fiber. Like, where does that come from? How does it move? What kind of board is inside of this? Like, what is it recycled content? Is it PCR? Is it industrial? And what certifications are in? Like, so all of that detail has to be collected in one location. SpecRite does amazing, but if you're not, even if you're not using SpecRite yet, like, it's still important to have this documented. And as things change, right? Because you might try to cut cost because paper coming from one location might have a new tariff on it that increases it 10%. So you look for another supplier. That's fine, as long as it's the same. And then you're able to track that data and update the data. And that's another thing too, is like the updates. Like,
even the
brand doesn't keep up.
Like your brand integrity is actually based upon your ability to manage your own specifications. Because if you, in this example of the rigid setup box, it's like, yeah, that's right, Anthony. Change does freak people out. But in the case of a rigid setup box, even something as simple as like the foil, it's like, hey, can you match this foil? Because you're trying to change for whatever. If you don't know who the foil provider is, the tint of that foil, the way it lays down, the way, is it cold foil? Is it a foil stamp? It's like, even like something that seems so simple can be really complex until you capture it. But once you've captured it and you've named it, now the complexity is removed, and you as the brand are in control of the density of the opacity of the white on the paper is going to change from, it's not just, to your point, it's not just white paper. It's going to be there's going to be variations, and then you're going to call out an ink to print onto that paper, but the ink on that paper is going to differ because the paper vendor is now it's like all of this stuff, which seems so easy, is complicated until you as a brand owner, in my opinion, have taken control of it, have named it, have captured it. And I think that's why there's 10 times the amount of people at this event as there was just a few years ago.
And I think like Corey and I think everybody here, I think we've all had that experience when you're talking to someone and they are, like Anthony says, they're freaked out by change. They don't want to lose their job. So sometimes even ask for that from their position, like asking, okay, well, tell me about the paper. Like, where's that coming from? They don't want to necessarily be responsible for that information because now if something changes, it's their responsibility. Right. And if they're just hands off and like, hey, I just bought this, and that's all they focus on, then if that board changes or anything happens, they're hands off. It's not their responsibility. And today, with as many layoffs as are happening, as many buyouts as are happening, as many things that are shifting in the job market, people really want to hold on to those jobs. Yes. They don't want to be more responsible in some cases, or they don't want to change because change comes with more responsibility.
Well said. And managing that data is a great job, and figuring out how to get it all into the system and knowing how to access it. And these kinds of things are a new skill that are like you were talking about the engineer you were talking to. Maybe that could be one of her focuses, and much easier to find.
Well, she was saying there's so much that she's asked to do to innovate on the current packaging, right? To change something, especially with regulations, adding PCR, making it compostable, making it recycle ready. Like, she's being asked to do all of this, but she spends, that company is paying her how much money to investigate what could be a 10-minute thing. She's spending a week doing that. Right. And so there is a cost savings even in that too for companies. If you could streamline a lot of this data and information, it helps the innovation move forward. And I think especially in 2025, in the next 5-10, just future here on out, there's so much that needs to change, and that, we're being required to evolve, hopefully more sustainable, but sometimes not, sometimes cost savings for, a lot of reasons. That information is critical and is necessary. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And having that organized really does save money long term.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, are you guys speaking today?
Yeah. Competing times though.
Oh.
So we're gonna
come to mind.
We're
go to Adam's.
You're talking about EPR, and I'm talking about
talk about
LCAs with the team at Track. I think the most important thing I've realized though, Avelio, is I need a new logo. I think I gotta have
the glasses.
But I don't need this kind of logo because that would be
just nose down.
I think we could sue you.
I could be sued for that.
I like that. Just nose down. Yeah.
That's it.
That's incredible.
It's gonna be great. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Whichever one of you joined us besides Anthony. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us. Let us know any questions you got. Drop them in the comments. Follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And Brody, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. We'll see you guys tomorrow.